Alright, so I already did a video rating every killer on how fun they are to go against, and today I'm going to be rating every survivor by toxicity. So at number 41 is going to be Sable Warren. Currently in the game, and with all the information given right now, there's just not enough information to tell whether if she's going to be a extremely toxic survivor or if she's going to be a wholesome survivor. At number 40, I have Quentin. Quentin is pretty wholesome. He's not really that toxic. Anytime I see a Quentin, they're just kind of doing the gens and not really doing much. Sometimes they're searching a chest for pharmacy. Next is Jeff. Jeff is one of those survivors that has cosmetics that makes them look scary and toxic, but yet no one ever actually plays as Jeff. I do not see Jeffs at all. They don't exist. And because no one really plays as Jeffs, no one's really that toxic as Jeff. Bill. I have not seen a Bill in literal years. I don't think I've seen a Bill in Dead by Daylight in, like, actually forever. And here's the thing. Back in the day, I would argue that Bills used to be pretty toxic because you used to see quite a bit of them. But now they're just extinct and not really that toxic because you just don't see them at all. Detective Tap. Detective Tap is just another one of those survivors who is just completely absent from the game. I just don't really ever see them. And anytime I do see them, they're just gen jockeys. They're not really, like, looping the killers and flashing their flashlights in killers' faces. Jonah. Jonah is a survivor who you just do not see as a person who runs and loops killers. He just doesn't. That's just not what I see people do as him. Honestly, anytime I see a Jonah, they're like at the corner of the map doing something completely absurd. Ash is another one of those survivors who is an absolute badass in the show and in the game with his cosmetics, but no one plays as him at all. You never really see Ashes, and anytime you do, they're just going down because they're trying to get their Medal Man stacks. So it's like they're being a team player, but they're also not like being super toxic. Steve Arrington. I don't really see that many Steves at all. Like, really never. Probably because his teachable perks are just really bad. And Steve is another one of those survivors who's more of a team player more than he is actively going out of his way to bully the killer. Jake Park. Jake's used to be probably one of the most toxic survivors in the game because of Saboteur, but since then it has been nerfed to the ground, absolutely. So you just don't really see that many Jakes that often. If they are, they're, you know, in the corner running Calm Spirit. And with also the Iron Will nerf, it's just not that good anymore. It's literally just better at this point to run all chase perks. Zarina. She's like a Blendette 2.0. That's, you know, really all she is. She's not really that toxic. She's just a Blendette, you know. They're not really going to be helping you do the gens. They're just going to be hiding in bushes and self-carrying in the corner of the map. Felix is going to be a survivor who's going to be hiding in lockers most of the time because of his perks. Now, because of the item perk that allows you to get charges back when you hide in a locker, you'd think that it would be a good idea to run a flashlight. Felix's, they're going to run toolboxes so they can get those gens done and be more of a team player than a toxic survivor. Adam is going to be the start of a little bit toxic. Because of the cosmetics and because of his perks, people are typically going to be actively trying to save their teammates and then try to go down at the end game so they can just jump off the hook in the killer's face. So he's a half team player and a little bit of toxicity. Yorochis are a little bit toxic. They typically run flashlights and will run the blighted cosmetics or the raincoat cosmetics just to try to annoy you and try to wear bright cosmetics to, you know, get you as the killer to chase them. Ronaldos are also a little bit toxic. They're going to try to get your attention and they're going to try to get flashlights. And typically, when you see a Ronaldo, they're pretty good at running you. And they may do a little bit of a teabag out of pallets. Gabriels are also one of those survivors that has a lot of bright cosmetics. So they're going to be running those cosmetics just to try to get you to chase them. And they're going to be bringing in flashlights. And typically, they're going to be pretty good players. Nicolas Cage. A lot of survivors like the fact that Nicolas Cage is in Dead by Daylight. And because of that, you have a lot of better players playing as Nicolas Cages. So typically, they're going to be really good, and they're going to be running flashlights, and they're going to be blinding you, and they're going to be teabagging. Because they think it's funny that a Nicolas Cage can run around the map and blind you and stun you as a survivor. Ventoro. Ventoros are typically really rare to see, but when you see one, they are really good players, and they're going to be pretty toxic. Most of them probably like to show off their muscles with their shirtless skin, and they're going to be running flashlights, and they're going to be gen rushing extremely hard. Davids are typically pretty toxic because of the skins and the perks. When you see a person running no mother, you know they're going to be ballsy. You know they're going to be looping and running you super hard and super well because they're not going to go down. That's why they run no mother. Hatties are typically pretty rare, but when you do see them, they're going to be running flashlights. Because of their perk Residual Manifest, they're going to be trying to blind you as much as possible throughout the entire match. And she has very bright cosmetics, so she's going to be pretty toxic. Yoonjin Lee. Anytime I see Yoonjin Lee, they are wearing the brightest cosmetics, running smash hit, and running flashlights, and it is just the most annoying thing ever. Kates are one of the more toxic survivors in the game because they're gonna teabag you at a pallet if they stun you, and they're typically gonna be with Swifts, and they're gonna be tryharding. Dwights are 50-50. They're either gonna be super toxic or they're gonna be absolute babies, and they're going to be hiding in lockers. The babies are going to be, you know, helping the team by doing gens for the most part, but also hiding in the corner of the map. And the toxic Dwights are going to be running flashlights, and they're going to be looping you all game. Leon Skennedy. Leons are typically toxic because of the Resident Evil games. A lot of people are going to want to play as Leon because he's an absolute badass. So a lot more people are going to be using him and being really good at running you and being toxic. Alan Wake. I think Alan Wake is a lot more toxic only because he came out more recently, and a lot of people really like the Alan Wake games. So a lot of people are going to be playing as him, and typically better players are going to be playing as Alan Wake, so they're going to be more toxic. Alright, now we're starting to get into the really toxic survivors. Michaela's are typically survivors who are going to be really toxic. She has extremely bright cosmetics, which just signifies the killer to target them, and they're going to be running flashlights, and they're going to be teabagging at pallets any chance they get. Elodie, something. Elodies are pretty rare, but typically when you see one, they're gonna be really good. She's another survivor who just has really bright cosmetics, and that just makes people want to play as her a lot more. Jill Valentine. Jill's is another Resident Evil character who is an absolute fucking badass, and I think that's why a lot of people are gonna be playing as her a lot more, and that's why more good players are gonna be playing as her, which is gonna make her more toxic. Rebecca Chambers. She's another Resident Evil character that also kind of falls in the same category, but her perks make her also a little bit better, and also I think the way that she just looks and acts makes her more of a toxic survivor. She has extremely bright cosmetics, which is gonna again fall under the same category of bright survivor equals chase me, so they're gonna be running flashlights, and her perk Any Means Necessary is just super good for chasing, and it counters a lot of killers. Claudette used to be one of the least toxic survivors because they used to have their nickname Blendette, and they would just run the darkest cosmetics and hide in the corner of the map and self-care. But I think ever since the rise of JRM, a lot more people are going to be using Claudette and being absolutely sweaty with her, and she also has quite bright cosmetics. Ellen Ripley. Ellen Ripley's are a little bit more rare now, but when you do see them, they are absolutely sweaty. They're bringing in flashlights, they're teabagging, and because her base cosmetic is already super bright, it just makes her more of a target. Alright, number 10, Fang Min. Fangs are going to be extremely toxic because Fangs have just really bright cosmetics. They're going to be bringing in flashlights, and because of life, you're going to be getting dumb teched a lot after you get stunned by a pallet, and because she's like a gamer girl, she probably appeals to a lot more people more, so it just makes her a extremely toxic survivor. Cheryl. Anytime I see a Cheryl, they're typically pretty rare, but they're all running the princess cosmetic, and they're bringing in flashlights, and they are just extremely toxic, and they're typically with Swifts. Janes are absolute trolls. Because of their perk Head On, that means they're gonna be hiding in lockers a lot and running quick and quiet to stun you, and then after you get stunned, they're gonna blind the crap out of you. Aces is just a survivor who looks so funny and also has like the best cosmetics in the game, so I think a lot of people just like to play as him because of that, and because of that, a lot better players are gonna be playing as Ace, and that's where you're gonna get a lot more toxicity. Ada Wong. Ada is another Resident Evil survivor, but I don't think people are really playing her because of that. Her benefit is that she is extremely quiet. You're gonna see her a lot more in competitive DBD because of that, and it's also just Ada. She's a badass. Valida. Ever since the Skull Merchant chapter got released, so many people have been playing as Valida. It's like ridiculous, and they are gonna be one of the most toxic survivors in the game. They're just bringing in flashlights. They're gonna be teabagging, and they're gonna be trying to troll you a lot. Nancy Barrel. Nancy's have always been super toxic ever since Stranger Things came into Dead by Daylight. All Nancy's are gonna be bringing in flashlights, teabagging, trolling, and all of the above. People just love to play as Nancy because of Stranger Things, and I think because of that, she's just became one of the most toxic survivors in Dead by Daylight. Alright, number 3, Laurie Strode. Laurie's used to be, probably was the most toxic survivor in Dead by Daylight at a point in time because of Decisive Strike, and also because just people were playing as Laurie all the time, every game. But now, you don't really see that many Lauries, but when you still do, she's still just gonna be as toxic as ever. The second most toxic survivor is Nia Carlson. Nia's are notoriously toxic for a few reasons. She's gonna be running flashlights, teabagging, and looping you all game. They've always been the boosted flashlight survivor, and also because of Noob 3. Ever since Noob 3, I think a lot of people picked up Nia. Myself, I picked up Nia because of that. And because of Noob, so many people just picked up Nia. And that's where a lot of toxicity came with her as a survivor. Alright, the most toxic survivor in Dead by Daylight has to be Meg. The majority of the time, you're gonna see a Meg. Like, almost every game I get, I basically see a Meg. And they're gonna be the most toxic. They're gonna be teabagging, they're gonna be bringing in flashlights, they're gonna be running the most toxic perks, and they're gonna be running and looping you so hard. And the most toxic of all Megs, they're gonna be with Swifts, and they're gonna be carrying their entire team. Alright, this has been my ranking video of every survivor by toxicity, and no offense to any of your mains. This has just been a goofy little shitty video that I decided to do, and I'm not biased towards any survivor. I think if you like to play as them, you should be able to play as them. So let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys in the next Dead by Daylight video.